Good evening, viewers, and welcome back to Prime Live. Today, we are delighted to welcome Chef Tebogo Nape, widely known as Chef Dede, to Prime Live. Now, Chef Dede is the co-founder of food solutions business Mahube New Dawn. Now, after a successful career in music as a DJ, as well as a stage producer for artists like Nandi, TKZ, as well as Kulichana, he switched to the culinary world where he has thrived for over a decade. Now, Chef Dede has run kitchens in the Sandton Rivonia on Deck, Rosebank's Niche Lounge, as well as the Bannister Hotel in Braamfontein. Good evening, Chef, and welcome to Prime Live.
What up, girl? How you doing?
Oh, thank you so much for joining us on Prime Live. I'm super excited to have this conversation with you. I mean, a transition from music to food. I absolutely love that. Now, you had a very successful career in music as a DJ, as well as a stage producer. What inspired you to transition from music to the culinary world? And transitioning can be something that is very, very, stressful for a lot of people. A lot of people are scared to make a transition when it comes to career moves. What would be your advice, and can you tell us what inspired the move?
Well, thank you very much, guys. Firstly, for having me. It's a great honor. It's a beautiful Friday evening. Sorry, I couldn't be in studio. Next time around, I promise I'll bring some dishes and we'll make some great delights. So I've always loved food. I come from a family where I always say it's a matriarchal family, where my grandmother, my mom, my aunt, all the women in my family, they've always used food as such a medium to communicate everything to us. And they wanted to make sure that their sons, my cousins, my nephews, and everybody else could sustain themselves. So for me, transitioning from music, which is also a very good love of mine, to food was so natural, because when we were on the road with the guys, when we were touring, when we were traveling, I would be the one that would be making food. We got tired of buying takeaways all the time and every stop and everything else. And I opted to just buy food, and we'd get B&Bs where it's self-catering, and I would be making food there. And it was very easy for me when I decided that let me just take this food journey seriously, and just go a step further and learn a little bit more so that I can take it on as a career.
No, I really love that. And I love what you spoke about. You spoke about family and you spoke about coming together. And that's the thing about food and music. They both have a way of really bringing people together. Now, speaking about the culinary industry, you've been in the culinary industry for over 10 years now, running kitchens in some of Johannesburg's most notable eateries. Can you share some of the highlights from your culinary journey and working in all these very, very esteemed kitchens?
Oh wow, man! What a journey it's been. Hey, like hearing you reading out the intro to my journey. I think most of the time we're running so fast and we're running and looking forward so much that we hardly take a moment to stop and look back at just how far we've come. For example, Rivonia on Deck. I had the honor of working under our new Minister of Sports and Agriculture, Gaten McKenzie. That was his establishment. And he was my boss then, and I got to meet him then, an incredible gentleman. At the Bannister, I got to work with under a man named Andrew Bannister, one of South Africa's most renowned photographers, incredible, incredible gentleman. So all these people gave me a journey. In a niche lounge in Rosebank, I got to work with Georgie. Georgie was known and is known as one of the people that was a catalyst to South African entertainment industry, and how he changed the whole space and, the clubbing space, the partying space. He introduced food into that space to make sure that it was a very seamless thing, and he brought me in to be part of that change. And till date, in Rosebank, the mark that I left with Georgie there is still very imminent. People always talk about the food that I would make and how many places have emulated the stuff that I did there. So yeah, it's been quite a journey.
An incredible one at that. And I love that you've left behind your legacy wherever you have been. And this just goes to show the impact that you have on people and the impact that your food leaves on people. I always say I'm an absolute foodie, and I always say and talk about how food has emotional connection to it. You always remember food and associate it with a memory or a family member or a great experience. And it seems you've absolutely encapsulated that with your presence at Rosebank as well. Now, when it comes to both the music industry as well as the culinary industry, both in entertainment as well as in hospitality, it can pose a lot of challenges. What have been some of the challenges or the biggest challenges that you have experienced, and how did you manage to overcome them?
Well, I mean, switching one career for another, it's you just have to be humble enough to learn that you're starting from the bottom up. You're learning from the bottom up. So coming from a high of music where popularity and the money and the access, and everything was just given and granted to us like that. All those things, and you have to then now you're working in a scullery. Now you're working as a line cook. You're building yourself up. You just have to be humble enough to know that it's in the experience that you're getting. It's not enough that you've got the theory from your books that you studied about this. It's more about the practicality of when you apply yourself. So the challenges in culinary was just, in building myself up and learning the ropes there, learning to work in an environment that is very different from where I was. The similarities, of course, with music and food is that there's so much pressure. There's a lot of pressure. You're working under time constraints. You're working towards perfection. You're only as good as your last dish. You're not as good as anything else that you're still going to prepare. And in the food space, working with giants, working with people that have literally shaped the South African music industry, that was an honor and also a challenge every time, because these people are today, they are advocates of South African music. They are ambassadors of South African music. They've left a legacy that is so huge. And in a small role, I played a part of that, to say that, I was there to be one of the building blocks that they were using to get to the journey that they were. So for me, it's just a great legacy that that you have to build towards a legacy, and the discipline that each craft has. Music, you have to rehearse, practice, practice, practice. Same as culinary, you have to practice, practice, practice. And I take the same things and I apply the both things to them.
Thank you for sharing that. I mean, in sharing your challenges, you also provided some incredible advice for, our viewers, irrespective of what industry they are in. Like you said, practice makes it perfect. And what I love is that you've shown us that transitioning from one career path to another, yes, it can be difficult, but it can be seamless as well if you have the courage and the strength to pull it off. And that's something we were talking about in the beginning of the show, is that sometimes we end up in a particular career field and we tend to find our passion somewhere else. It can be a very daunting and intimidating task to move from one medium to another, or to move from one industry to another. But you've absolutely proven that with hard work and determination, it can be something that is successful and inevitably also making you very happy. And you also have proven that fine dining and simplicity can coexist in one space. Can you explain your philosophy behind this?
Oh yeah. I mean, yeah, you're quite right. Choose to think that at first, when I went to study, I studied business, and I then moved into music, and then I moved into culinary. And to merge everything, I learned that you have to be fluid. Like I always say that water is the greatest example of life. It's the most fluid thing that you can have, and I take that philosophy and that mindset towards my food. I use South Africa as an inspiration and as a medium. The food that we have, the diversity that we have, the different groups that we have, the different languages that we speak. We as a people, if you want to see just how great we are, bother South African on any social media, you will see just how South Africans fall on it. If you want to see just how great we are, watch us when our sporting teams are doing great. So I take that mindset and I apply it to my dishes. I take the simplicity that we have as a people and I elevate that food. I take what you know every day. I take what you eat every day. I take what the taxi drivers eat every day. I take what the bus drivers eat. I take what everybody eats and I elevate it to make it something that they recognize the taste, but in presentation, they don't really see it at first glance. But when they eat it, they're like, this reminds me of something. Like you're quite right when you say that food is always attached to a memory. It's attached to a feeling. It's attached to when you smell it, when you taste it, it has to take you somewhere. It has to bring up an emotion that tickles something in you. And that's the beauty of it. And that's what I do with my food whenever I create it. That's the simplicity in my fine dining.
I love that. And when we think about, the classic South African dishes that you are elevating on your platform, it's an amazing way to, yes, remember those familiar flavors and remember that connection that you have to those familiar flavors, but also reimagine them in a new and exciting way. And I love that you are exploring, the diversity that South Africa has to offer, from South African street food to, what we are used to experiencing, but in a new and imagined way. Now, as the co-founder of Mahube New Dawn, can you tell us more about the mission rather and the vision for your food solutions business?
So uh, that's a beautiful question, actually. Um, for Mahube, when creating Mahube, I had the opportunity to work with an incredible brand. And in doing that, they took me around the country and made me an ambassador for a children's food campaign where I had the great honor of teaching about 130,000 children around the country about how to make food for themselves, how to prepare food for themselves, not to wait on mom and dad on making food for yourself. So that little bit of knowledge goes very far, and also the knowledge that they can then share with their parents on how to make different dishes, different meals. So I always say that everything in your pantry can be turned into a celebration. It's just in how you apply your mind to it. And I share that about it. And that's the philosophy behind Mahube. We want to take the knowledge that we have. Well, we're very conscious to the fact that not everybody has the privilege of going to study food. Not everybody has the privilege of going to study business, but everybody has the privilege of having a mind that can absorb knowledge. So if you teach somebody, they don't need a piece of paper from you to say that they're qualified in it, but they know and they have the knowledge in it. They can go start a small business on a street corner. They have the know-how, how to clean their kitchen, how to look after the food, how to cater for the people that they're working with. And we take that solution and we apply it to everything that we do, whether it's food design, whether it's styling, whether it's private hospitality, whether every single thing that we do under the Mahube banner. We want to make sure that we leave a footprint and a mark in everybody's life that we touch.
Now, that's an incredible initiative. But speaking about your career, you've worked with various brands throughout your career. How do you approach these collaborations and what makes these collaborations successful?
Oh man. I think most people think that it's an easy feat to be a chef and say, for example, go work with a brand or go be a television chef. I've been fortunate to do both, to do all three. I'm on television, I'm a chef, and I work and I represent a lot of brands. But it's in also applying yourself. The music background, the entertainment background gives me the discipline and the ability to channel myself in front of the camera. The the culinary training and the culinary background gives me the discipline to make food for brands and follow a process that they want. Most people misunderstand a simple thing like a brief. Like when client A says, I want my food to be presented very simple and to appeal to the ordinary man. Most chefs will want to take it and make the most fanciest of things, but that's not what the brief is. And it's in understanding what client wants. It's in understanding how to read a client and how to go above and beyond within the spectrum of what the client is giving you to work in. And that's how I work a lot more. And that's what I do. And I think that's been a great success key to what I do with my brands and the brands that I work with.
Now, that's incredible. Thank you so much for joining us this evening and for sharing your journey with us. We do hope that next time you can join us in person and we have the opportunity to make some very new food memories with you.
Oh man, looking forward to it. Before I go, guys, I've got a couple of new shows. I am on a show now on DSTV 161. You guys can catch me on every Tuesday at 9:30. It's really, really cool. It's called Celebrity Mystery Box, and on I've got another show coming hopefully soon. With one of South Africa's biggest television channels. So there's a lot more that we're doing, and we're going to be rolling out a program that is going to be aimed at helping a lot more children, helping a lot more with nutrition, getting a lot more children to stay in school, because we all know that it starts with hunger. You know, when you're hungry, you can't concentrate and you can't do anything. So look out for all of these things that we're going to be rolling out as the Mahube and as Chef Tebogo.
I absolutely love that. I think a lot more needs to be done in terms of addressing hunger in South Africa. When we look at the statistics of how many people in South Africa are actually going hungry, it's absolutely alarming. And I love that you are using your platform and your brand to be able to make a difference in the lives of the children in South Africa. But we thank you for sharing your wonderful energy with us and your tips and secrets to a successful journey. And we look forward to tasting some of your food in the future.
Hey man, I'm gonna be there real soon. I'm gonna bring some real goodies. I actually want us to cook together so we can just share ideas. You know, I love working with foodies.
Thank you
People
so
always
much for
inspire
joining
me.
us. Viewers at home, that was Chef Dede, who shared his journey in transition from the music industry to the culinary industry. He absolutely proved that it is possible for you to transition from one career path to another.